Good afternoon, YouTube. Do a little short video from the trail. This is the beginning of the Stevens Canyon Trail. This whole area used to be the trail down below there, but in 2017, with the real heavy rains, this landslide area here slid. You can actually see the old trail used to come up right along over here, but it slid out on that side straight down to the creek, and then this side too. This is part of the San Andreas Fault right here. Yeah, so anyway, all this gray-green rock down here is what's called serpentinite. It's a really interesting rock. I'll have to make a separate video on this area, but like I said, in 2017, this part of the trail washed out. Used to go around the backside of that bush, and it was a relatively easy climb, just a nice gentle trail. There was like one little steep spot down there, but you could ride up it no problem. And then this right here used to be kind of a little side trail that the mountain bikers made, and it just drops right down this face here. So when the trail washed out, this one now became the trail, and this thing is really steep. It probably doesn't look steep in the camera, but I've checked the gradient here, and it measures between 26 and 27 degrees right past that fallen tree. Gradient wise, that's a 50% grade. It's slick, hard packed clay, that's serpentinite clay, and it's a real touchy surface. If it gets too wet, it gets very slippery. Earlier this spring, after the rains we had this winter, it was really nice and grippy, and all the grit on the surface was packed down. And then this is the hill that my low gear kept popping out of gear. I would start climbing this hill, and then my derailleur would shift from first to second gear. Every time it did that, you would stop. So once I re-indexed all the gears and got that working, I can now ride here, and I could always get up to that really steep spot. And then I was always lifting the front tire, or I would pull, since you're pulling kind of hard on the handlebars, if you accidentally pull too hard, like with your left hand or your right hand, you're going to turn the bike. And when you do that, there's very little weight on your front tire, so it'll just turn real easy. So it's really hard to pedal hard and keep a straight line, and you have to follow this groove up, because if you get off to the side, it gets even steeper. But today, I made it all the way up here and up there, and just about collapsed when I got to that point. So I finally made it. And it was more mental. So long I had the problem either with the front tire lifting or the gears ghost shifting on me. And I kept waiting for that to happen. And by lengthening the wheelbase on the bike, I moved the rear wheel back about 10 millimeters. And that little extra wheelbase makes all the difference on this. You can keep the front tire on the ground so you can steer without getting into too contorted a shape where you can't pedal. So yeah, I finally found the right combination. You've got to lower the seat post probably about halfway down, maybe 50 millimeters. Low gear, stay in the groove, and you just have to keep powering through here. You got to hold a straight line. You can't veer one way or the other. And yeah, I finally made it. I also dropped the tire pressure a couple of pounds, so I had grip. So yeah, there we go. That is the steepest hill on this whole trail right here. It's 50% gradient, and I finally made it. It probably really shows here because you can hardly see the surface of the trail right down here. It just drops out of sight. And going down this hill is not easy. You're right on the verge of locking up your tires with the brakes. The reason you need the brakes is right around that corner there is a favorite spot of the open space rangers. Love to set up shop right around that corner there with their radar gun, and it is nearly impossible to keep under 15 miles an hour going down that hill. And they're right there to take your picture, and I've seen a couple of people get nailed right at that corner. This is one of the speed traps here. And then I made it up this hill too. This is kind of the second steepest hill, I think. This one I measured at 42% gradient. Later in the spring and summer, you get a lot of gravel comes out of the soil, and then you get a deep layer of gravel on that hill. And today it slipped 3 or 4 times coming up there. You could hear the back tire just starting to break loose, which means you got to back off on the pedals, but you can only back off so far before you stop moving forwards. There's quite a degree of luck involved in this climb, because if you're coming up and you hit one of those pieces of golf ball size gravel that's buried in the soft dirt, it'll throw your bike to one side or the other, and you almost can't recover. You might be able to recover one of those, but that recovery might take all your strength to get back rolling again. And sometimes you end up pointing sideways and going up the side of the trail. And at that point, you just got to bail out and walk the rest of the way. Yeah, so having the 20-45 gearing there really makes the difference, because you can stay seated, keep your weight on the saddle and over the back tire, and you do have to put some weight forward to keep from lifting the front tire off the ground, but you can do all of that and just stay seated and just crank out about 70 RPM. You're going about walking pace up the hill. You don't want to accelerate. I think that was the main problem I was having, is I would try to accelerate when the hill got steeper. The trick I found is just to hold the same cadence. Whatever cadence you start at the bottom, try to finish at the same cadence. If that's 70 RPM, just stay at 70. Don't speed up to 80 or 90. You're trying to accelerate uphill. That doesn't work very good. So yeah, definitely liking the gears. They're not popping out of gear anymore. It just shifts really nice. So it gives me about a 12 gear inch on the low end, and then I can go up to 108 on the high end. So anyway, that's a bike ride today. I got about 1,000 feet of climbing to go here, so I better get going. I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching.